We stand in a very crucial portion. You can say that every portion, definitely in Bereshit and Shemot, is crucial. But there are some that summon in themselves a leap or an octave change, a forming of another step. There are some portions which we establish what was so far, and some portions they are a leap. You would call it a leap of faith, meaning they demand from us a totally different position, different mental position, different feeling, and different ability to sense the importance. It does not say this is an important portion, but this is where the Zohar is coming in order to sort of lead us to a position that will allow us to actually to change. It will allow us to be part of the revelation that is possible. So definitely Beshalach is the first, or you can say that it's the first or the preparatory revelation for Israel. For Israel, it means for those who chose to be Israel, because there is a sorting out of, one can say, two states of, one can say, of the debate between Pharaoh or the conscious creative faculty, which is consciousness, which of the will to receive to oneself, that is claiming to be the firstborn as a power of creation. And then there is a need through the 10 plagues to prove or to show to Pharaoh that there is a difference first in history, in the different formation forces of that form, of that entity that is called Israel in history, which is the first 7 plagues, and then in the thought of creation, which is the last 3. But they are all 10 are actually speaking about an endowed virtue. And it's a virtue that belongs to Israel, but we see that in this portion, Pharaoh is chasing after Israel because there is another part, which is the choice part. You might be singled out as having certain virtues. The question whether you choose them, or you choose to fulfill them, you choose to enact them, or you choose to live by the values. It means that you have to choose as well the parts that express exile and tribulation and tests. It's almost say that you are willing to be tested or judged at every moment, not only according to your virtue, but according to your choice. So it is a very tense moment because it's a nation of slaves, The choice is not in the vocabulary, definitely not in the mental disposition. And yet, there is a memory, and there is at least the days, the 4 days of preparation, the days of circumcision of the heart, and marking the body, marking it with an inclination of the soul. And then we come into this portion, and it seems like Pharaoh is waking up from, so he was sort of reading the contract again with his debate with God. And he sees that there is something that was not fulfilled, and that is the choice. Okay. But there is something else in it, which is in order to perform or to open up through the meeting point of Egypt and Israel, it's a meeting point of the force or the law of nature and the law of the miraculous or of miracle. So it is sort of strange, maybe, or awkward to speak about law of miracle, because one of the definitions of miracle is that it's above, or at least does not comply to the laws of nature. Okay. But in order for it to sort of to happen, in order for that, you can say the transcendental part. Okay, if the transcendental part need to penetrate the law of nature, there is a demand that at least there will be a covenant or community of consciousness that will allow it. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that if we speak about Tzimtzum Bet, we see that in order for it to become something that is part of the consciousness and understanding and way of life, people need to be aware and to choose it. Okay, because the fact of Tzimtzum Bet, which is it's a partnership between mercy and judgment. It's exactly that. It's sort of a membrane of two completely opposite entities. Okay. So, a few things that we need to choose the virtue, that there is a value in the choice because it relates to the thought of creation, to bestow goodness or to bestow good to the createe, which means that choice need to be exercised and willed and valued. Okay. So where can we see that? So if I don't know what kind of Bible you hold, but I'm still holding King James. So let's look. We are still in the starting point. And when I speak about choice, I don't speak about the choice that is the historic Israel had to make on the shore of the Red Sea. I'm speaking about the choice that we have to make today in order to form, to allow the formation, because it is crossing the Red Sea, or crossing the sea of the end, is actually the birth of, it's not the birth of a nation that has nothing to do with any other formation of nations that has occurred so far or will occur, because it's formation of an idea that is becoming a genetic memory, okay, but it needs to be chosen. Okay, so I would like to read it with you. Okay, so okay, we're looking at I call it Exodus or Shemot 14. Verse 15. Okay. Okay. I'm reading. And the Lord, I just will describe to you where we're standing in the scene. It means that Pharaoh is approaching, the sea is in front of them, and legend would say, and wild beasts around them from the right and left, and they're crying. Some of them are praying, some of them are preparing to fight, and at least to die fighting. Some of them are complaining and wishing to go back, to surrender and go back to Egypt. So you can see four camps. But the whole issue is concentrated in this verse. And the Lord said unto Moses, therefore cries thou unto me, speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward, that they will move. It's not time for prayers. It's not time for contemplating fight, because the promise is that God will fight for you. And there's no other option but to risk everything that is in our perception that it is impossible. So you lay everything that is to do with the perception of the corporal part of you, and you enter, you move into that which you chose to believe in. That it did not take you to death. It's going to open, meaning you are holding. This is exactly the definition of Tzimtzum Bet, of darkness. You're holding to darkness, meaning to what is perceived by you as darkness, as impossible, as death, because you realize that this is part, it looks like it, because this is the part of the higher reaching out for you, or reaching out for the benefit of something beyond perception, beyond corporal perception to happen. And that is where the seas open, meaning the degree or all sphirot is being divided. Okay? And anyone who held to that which is beyond their perception, they held to belief, actually could walk on dry land inside the sea. And the one who perceived it to be impossible would drown into it, or would drown in it. And that is the process of birth. That the impossible, or that which is in the twilight of the two of those two perceptions, which is the moment Friday meets Shabbat. This is the moment that everything that would need to penetrate as a drop through a membrane of a memory of the thought of creation. This is the moment that it is possible, that it is happening. Okay. So the four aspects of the revelation on the sea, meaning that it is being said that even the lowest maid saw on the sea what Yechezkel, the prophet, could not actually perceive in his prophecies, in his visions of prophecy. And then there is the fixation, one can say, the fixation on not letting go of the experience of a revelation. And so it's very difficult for Moses to move them from the sea, from the other shore. But yet, we need to understand that what happened to Egypt is called that what was revealed is the part of Malchut, or the part of judgment, that the mercy of Bina dressing and covering the judgment of Malchut for the Egyptian, meaning for those who do not, I would say, not for the one, it's a group now. It's a group that will have to form itself on belief, that they have to represent God issue on this earth. And it will be always in battle with those who would try to prove it through even the highest perception of the corporal way, or the corporal limitation. So at that moment, if you don't choose to, it's not only to repent, but to move naturally to the source of your life, and you stay with yourself being the authority on your life, you experience the judgment, or the judgment of Malchut. meaning the judgment of creation. Okay. But then, as they go into the desert, they are going through another tribulation, which is to do with water, craving to continue to live inside the revelation. They cannot find it, so they become thirsty. And every other source of quenching the spiritual thirst becomes bitter. So Moses actually teach them how to transform bitterness to sweetness. And you transform it through Torah. You transform it through belief in the illumination that can transform us. And then they come into a vision of what is called almost the Garden of Eden, meaning the state, the spiritual state of Atzilut, and then they fall from it, like the first Adam and Eve. And then they are given the man, which is the manna, what you call, which is another teaching of how to actually conduct oneself with the bestowal of light. It means that manna becomes a sustenance, a spiritual sustenance, that we are tested according to our attitude and value of it. It means that every day, every illumination is new. We cannot keep it for the day to come. We can only keep it on Friday, because on Saturday it keeps the sustenance. So the other test is how they will behave, how they will be with a spiritual sustenance, an illumination, a revelation, or how they will be with the presence of God in their life. Will they covet it? Will they try to keep it for themselves? And then it's quite evident what is happening. This is a teaching as well. It becomes rotten. You cannot use it. It becomes poisonous. So, and then comes that which seals this portion is a war with Amalek, which is being weakened, but not destroyed completely, because it has a duty or a function in actually what I call the reality check, or warmth. The warmth that we have towards, which means the passion or the lack of it, that we have towards the work and the opportunity that is being given to us. So all that is to do with this portion that is called Beshalach. Now, I would like to compare it for one moment to another portion in Bereshit, which is Vayishlach, which is the portion that actually forms Yaakov as Israel, or Yaakov, as something that is real. Okay. So it starts with the way Yaakov is fearing the meeting point with Esav, which is, as a whole, as a nation, is the fearing of the meeting point with Pharaoh, the prayer, the crossing of the river. There is a crossing of the Jordan. Yeah. All the way that we perceive personally our descent and our weaknesses, how we interpret them. It is being done with a staff, meaning with a force to change, the force of a changed heart, I would say. It has to do with a true fight for your identity, with the highest power that is forming reality for the corporal existence, okay, which is the fight with the angel. And here is the fight with Egypt. Not Egypt plural as people, but with a force, with a god of Egypt. Israel saw Egypt die on the sea, not the Egyptian. Okay. Egyptian is a consequence. Yeah. So, and then in Beshalach, Yaakov is coming out with a revelation, knowing that he saw the face of Elohim, and he battled with it, and he was able to win over, and to have those two states of Yaakov, which is the degree of smallness or the degree of exile, and Israel, which is the degree of its greatness. Okay. And then the meeting point and the separation, meaning the history of Israel start with Jacob separating from Esau, and the history, Israel coming into history as a nation, as an idea, as a belief, was born on crossing the Red Sea, and being born to fight its way into history, inside human history, as the carrier of the creator thought. Okay. So this is sort of wrapping around the importance of this portion and how it relates to what questions and what choices are possible for us, specifically at this time through reading this portion. We are after what is called Shabbat Shira, meaning Shabbat of song. But that inside this ability to hit the note, of the thought or the sentiment of the creator. It's a wholeness. It's the ability to see through. Okay. So all this is the poem of the birth of human evolution as a community of spirits.